With the permission of Senator Lacson here, who is present, we have a quorum. May I ask, the Secretary of the committee to introduce the guests or the resource persons?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Our resource persons for today, we have Judge Felix Reyes, the President of Philippine Judges Association. From Philippine Judicial Academy, Justice Oswaldo Agkawili, representing Justice Adolfo Ascuna.
Hi, Oswald.
From the Department of Justice, Attorney Jenny Rose Avellano Catalo. From the NBI, we have Deputy Director Vicente de Guzman, the third, and Attorney Val Ignacio. From the Civil Service Commission, we have Assistant Commissioner Ariel Ronquillo and Mr. Cesar Garduque Jr. Civil Service. Garduque, sir. From the PNP, we have the Director of CIDG, General Napoleon Coronel.
The brand new director. Jigs, good morning.
The XO from Operations, Ex-Operations, General Antonio Bartolome. From Human Rights Affairs Office, General Yusana. And
Is that it?
that's it, sir. We have here, sir, from the NBI, Deputy Director Antonio Pagatpat.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone and welcome. This is a hearing on the creation of Philippine marshals based on bills filed by several senators, including myself, and of course Senator Lacson and Senator Ronald De La Rosa, alias the Rock of the Senate. I just want to point out that I understand that the technical working group has been formed here and has met and has made a preliminary report, some of which I don't know about Senator Lacson, I question. But anyway, some of the recommendations which I question. Our staff has met with the representatives of the Office of the Court Administrator, or OCA, the Department of Budget and Management, Philippine Judges Association, and the Civil Service Commission last January 15, 2020. It was discussed during the TWG meeting that the Chief Marshal will receive a salary grade, and that's why I'm against it right away, because we're already talking salaries. Hindi pa natin nakukuha. Just kidding. And the Deputy Marshals who have the same rank of RTC judges will receive SG-29. According to the Office of the Court Administrator, the court administration is currently receiving SG-31. And they want another person who will receive another SG-31. As suggested by the Office of the Court Administrator, the four main divisions of the Philippine Marshal Service would be investigation, legal, information technology, and personnel and admin. Whatever happened to providing security for the judges. It is also mentioned that the deputy marshals do not need to be lawyers. And I agree with that. Such qualification may only be required for the chief marshal. I even question that because I think it will really depend on the essence of what we want these folks to do. There is also a concern when it comes to recruiting police officers and military officials because of their GSIS contribution. Upon transfer to the Philippine Marshal Service, they would have to go back to the start of their contribution. This can become a deterrent. Anyway, this is an option, really. And we'll probably get retired officials thereat. The DW envisions retired officers as heads of the Philippine Marshal and college criminology graduates undergoing training as marshal personnel. I'm sure there are thousands of people who took the bar and did not make it, unlike General Coronel, who made it on his first try in the bar. First try, ba? Okay, thank you. Today we will continue our hearing regarding the creation of the Philippine Marshal. Creation of the Philippine Marshal shall there you go, ensure the protection of the judiciary. That's the main vision. In my discussions with Chief Justice Peralta, we've been discussing this because of many judges have been killed. In fact, 31 in the last since 1999 judges have been killed. Uh, Judicial protection is the number one duty. All right. Of course, this representation believes that if they're going to go judicial protection, uh, they must be properly trained in VIP security, securing even defensive driving, and of course, they would need to have good intelligence. But anyway, we can discuss it later. The Philippine Marshal Service will be created under the Supreme Court through the Office of the Court Administrator. I think we should discuss this further. I think the Supreme Court is already saddled with so many problems. I think we should have somebody independent enough to make sure that they can make the decisions very quickly. The purpose of the Philippine Marshal Service is to protect judges, as already stated, witnesses, there you go, capture fugitives, assist in prison transportation, enforce warrants, and protect courts which are under threat, not under siege. The creation of a Philippine Marshal Service will secure the judiciary and assist in the administration of justice. In reality, we have to protect our judges because anytime a judge is threatened or killed, it is a slap at the very essence of justice in this country. And we must not allow criminals to get away with that. We shall now finalize, hopefully, the provisions of the Philippine Marshal. I would like first to welcome Justice Maides Marquez and of the Court Administration Office in the Supreme Court, and Office of the Court Administrator, Attorney Camille Ting. All right. Anybody else come on? Sino? And Colonel Ramil Sacullas, PNP. Did I pronounce your name correctly, sir? Thank you. Thank you very much. So there we are. Let me just make one more paragraph just to make sure that we are all on the same page. Another Captain Angeline Alferez of JAGS. Jago ba yan dati?
Yes, sir.
Naging
Now,
JAG?
Office of the Judge Advocate General, sir.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So, welcome. Well, as I pointed out, the original vision of Supreme Court Justice Peralta, Chief Justice, was to have security for all judges. I think that's really very, very important and necessary. However, if it's just security, if I may suggest, that's all they're going to do. Why create a special service? You can just hire security guards with special VIP protection capabilities. But we all know that in other jurisdictions in other countries, they also execute warrants, especially those that are long-time warrants that have not been served. If you saw the movie The Fugitive and watched that Yale graduate, head of the Marshal Service there, he was really after arresting a fugitive, long-standing. Of course, that's not just based on movies, but that has been the tradition. As we all know, the concept of Marshal occurred many years ago in England, and for that matter, even here in the United States. It became a tradition where you have sheriffs and marshals, especially in the Old West, copying the sheriffs of England, and then at the same time having marshals oversee something like what they had, and I'm sure Senator Lacson is familiar with it. In the past, Philippine Constabulary would take over a police and put it under police control if the local police has run amok and is not doing their job. Having said that, therefore, we want to make sure that they would have that capability to make not just arrests, but also, I suppose, from my own point of view, have their own intelligence system that would review all the pending warrants of arrest that are not being done. And at the same time, it will also make sure that that intelligence group will be able, at the same time, to assess the threat security, threat security, or the threat considerations that have to be made for judges. For an example, I'd imagine that if a judge is handling some very sensitive case, like in the case of the assassination of newsmen in Cotabato or in Maguindanao, uh, the marshals should have the radar on and making sure that all personalities that can do their ill will are watched, and that special VIP strategies, security strategies must be undertaken. So intelligence and of course the ability to investigate, I think that would be important. But having said that, they could also be, and we should identify it, used for other uses. No, but so far as I'm concerned, we should limit it so that they really focus on their job and they can be fast in their job, in the execution of their duties. Uh, so those are my 2 cents worth, and I'd now like to ask Senator Lacson if he would like to make a preliminary statement and his own comments on the matter before we start asking the resource persons and engage in our conversation.
I have no preliminary statement, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Senator Lacson. Uh, so, Justice Marquez, do you have any comments on what has been said and what is? I don't quite agree with the all the things that were spoken for in the TWG. Would you be able to handle this? I mean, are you going to, if you were in position and have not been appointed Justice of the Supreme Court, would you want this in your? I'll also ask Oswald about this, Justice Oswald. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for the support for this act or creation of this law. We actually fully support the creation of the Office of the Marshals in the Judiciary. No? We agree 100% with your Honor's initial statement that it should not be limited to enforce the safety and security of the judges and the justices, but also to assist the judiciary in the execution of orders, court orders, execution of warrants of arrests, and other functions that will enable them to perform these primary functions, Your Honor.
The duty of the marshal is to make sure that they are able to protect not only the life of the justice, but to protect the courts, the integrity of the courts, that it cannot be sullied by threats or, for that matter, threatened by cheap gangster types in this country. So you agree with investigation, intelligence? Of course, you have to have, I suppose, an academy. Now, let me just point out, Oswald, do you have any comments on that? You are a grizzled veteran in our country, and you should be able to come up with some suggestions.
Well, I was just reading the draft of the proposed bills, Your Honors, and to me, the most important is the provision which says that the law should ensure the safe and secure conduct of judicial proceedings and protection of justices, judges, court personnel, etc. To me, this is the
My
most
sentiments
important.
exactly. That's why we put it there.
Yes, sir.
But this is all expansion. And you agree with the other things that they have
Yes,
to do?
I do, Your Honor.
Yes. Are there any other comments from the others? Do you have other comments, Oswald? Justice?
Not,
Kawili?
even not now, Your
Mr.
Honor.
Chairman,
Yes, please.
I just would like to be clarified. First, I'd like to ask the NBI, what is the retirement age of NBI personnel? Is it not 65 years of age?
Good morning, Your Honor. The retirement age of the NBI is 65 years
Okay.
old.
Having said that, you have been effectively disqualified to become Chief Marshal. Because ang sabi rito, as proposed by, we're in receipt of this new document from the Office of the Court Administrator. Ang sinasabi po dito, newly retired, no, members of the Philippine National Police or the AFP or the NBI. Sige. Sa police, walang problema sa KSAP kasi 56 years old yung retirement age. But sa NBI, you have effectively disqualified NBI personnel. Okay.
Sir, actually, just last night after we sent the edited copy, I noticed this. In the original proposal, it says that Chief Marshal must have been at least a full colonel of the AFP or PNP or an assistant director of the NBI. Hindi sinabing retired. I think dun sa TW, sir, TWG nangyari na pinalitan yon sa TWG. So last night, I suggested that we revert back because of retirement issues. So sabi ko, ibalik natin dun sa original kasi what my proposal would be is to give those in the NBI or even those in the PNP or AFP to leave their respective offices and join the judiciary if
Parang
they think.
lateral entry. Ano?
Yes, sir. If they think they can, their competence, they can do better in the judiciary, then they can apply.
And I'm also glad that you have deleted the qualification, the being member of the bar as a qualification. Maybe as a deputy. Kasi ang NBI director, I understand, not necessarily a lawyer, di ba? Kailangan lang at least 10 years experience in law enforcement.
The position of the director requires a lawyer, educational attainment.
Ano yun,
Sir,
bagong
and
batas ba
CPA,
yan?
hindi ba? No, that's
The
the old one.
position of the regional director, deputy director, and the director, these are all
So
lawyers.
how did the late General Wicoco qualify? He was not a lawyer. Paano nag-qualify? Because I understand, I read somewhere, no, when we were, I think, discussing the budget of the NBI at that time, na meron lang, may qualification do, at least 10 years experience in law enforcement. Wala na yung qualification na member of the bar. So I just would like to be clarified, because I read somewhere that particular item in a document. So he must be a lawyer. Kasi ilan na
NBI.
ba yung NBI na? Naging requirement na yon. Under the NBI modernization law. Because even before General Vicoco, there were NBI directors who were not members of the bar, di ba? We can name some. So wala na yon. Overtaken by the amendment.
It is
May
expressly
just make a comment
provided
with the
under the
permission
law,
of
Your
Senator
Honor.
Lacson. The original thrust of the NBI requirement was that he must be a lawyer and a CPA. Would that be correct? Since the time of
For NBI Director, Your Honor,
Director Lukban.
applicant must be a lawyer, a member of the
No,
bar.
no. For an ordinary agent of the NBI,
Yes, Your Honor.
CPA and lawyer.
Yes, sir.
From the very beginning, regular agent, no? Nawala lang siguro yan, yung sinasabi ni Senator Lacson, I don't know if I'm correct there, na si Wikes or Wicoco became NBI director, and I call that either presidential intimidation or influence or NBI or citizen complacency, not to stand up and say this is the requirement. Noong panahon na yan, depende talaga pag sinabi ng kwan, sinutos ng hari. So, what I'd like to say, and we're not talking really about the NBI here, and, utos ni Rena, di ba babali? So, ang sinasabi ko, is dapat, tama yun sa NBI, but here, sa Philippine Marshal Service, I think we should talk about this. Do we really need a lawyer? Is it required that he be a lawyer? Even for the director? Chief Marshal, yes.
Sir, the proposal is for the Chief Marshal, he should be a lawyer.
Why?
Because he will be the marshals, no, can enforce decisions of the court. So
You have sheriffs who do that in the
well,
legal system, and they know what to do.
that's right. But the
Unless they're
sheriff,
beaten up, di ba? And
Yes,
we
sir,
allow them
but-
to be beaten up.
but the sheriffs are implement decision under the guidance of the judge.
With more reason.
Yeah. So in this case, the marshals, no, will have can also assist in the implementation of decisions. So there must be some lawyer in that office to guide.
My only problem with that is it will water down the principal purpose. If you start giving them those duties, you already have a sheriff, it becomes like that. You have to exact professionalism from the sheriffs, that they enforce it. Otherwise, why appoint it? Why appoint them?
Sir, in many instances, the sheriff alone cannot implement a decision of the court.
And he may call the local police, right?
That's right. In many instances, he has to coordinate with the local PNP. And sometimes it takes time before the coordination because It will have an approval from the higher-ups.
Then that's where I think the marshals can be called, but
That's
not
right, Your Honor.
principally responsible for that sort of thing. If the sheriff is unable to get the support of the local police because they're overloaded, then you have a group in the marshal's office that will help them
That's right.
execute
That's
that.
right. That's
Di ba? Otherwise,
Tama po yun.
mahirap yan.
Dito po sa proposal.
So you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Ah,
Yes, sir.
sige.
Dito po sa proposal, the chief marshal must be a lawyer or at least 5 years deputy marshal.
Yeah, I have a comment. Ano? Then it is in conflict with that qualification because nakalagay dito, or if not a lawyer, must have been a deputy marshal of the office of the judiciary marshal, who may not necessarily be a lawyer.
Tama po
So
yun.
na-defeat na
Tama,
rin yung purpose na maski hindi ka lawyer, pwede ka mag-chief marshal.
Pwede po yun, pero dapat meron ka munang experience
5 years.
doon sa 5 years sa office of the chief of the marshal. The reason, one of the
I just
reasons.
noticed the inconsistency because mahigpit kayo na ang chief marshal must be a lawyer.
Sir,
Pero further qualified by
uh,
the phrase, or if not a lawyer, must have served as deputy marshal for at least 5 years.
the reason for that, sir, is because under sinasabi ng civil service, na sa civil service daw, there must always be an option, or well, an opportunity for promotion. So kung ang deputy marshal mo, hindi ka required maging lawyer, hindi ka maging required maging lawyer, then you can never be chief marshal. So kaya natin nilagay, sige, pwede kang maging chief marshal, pero dapat nag-serve ka munang 5 years as deputy marshal. So, which means you have been in that office for at least 5 years. Medyo alam mo na yung trabaho, alam mo na mga dapat gawin, then you can qualify now as a chief marshal.
Parang may inconsistency pa rin because would 5 years be enough? 5 years experience
agree.
as
I would say
deputy
that.
marshal, be enough to have a good or comprehensive knowledge of the law. So alisin na lang natin yung qualification na lawyer as chief marshal kung ganun din lang.
Sir, we leave that to your...
No, we're discussing.
Okay lang po, okay lang po. That's okay. At ang isa pa lang doon, isa pa natin tinitingnan doon is because we're giving the chief marshal and deputy marshals the rank in privilege, compensation of justice of the Court of Appeals and regional trial court judge, who are
Well, excuse
obviously
me,
lawyers.
let me just interject with the permission of Senator Lacson. When you start talking about salary, you tend to be a copycat. The most important thing here is function. Why are we creating this? What is the function? If the function is judicial protection, then you don't really need a lawyer. In the NBI, you need a lawyer or an accountant because when you prepare the case for filing, the NBI will investigate and the NBI director should know what he's talking about. In other words, he must know the law. He must be able to say, okay, you're right, we should prepare a case, and he should pass it on to the Department of Justice. But in the case of the marshals, when they're supposed to implement a court order is a court order. By order of the court, we as marshal, we are executing this. You don't need a lawyer for that. You need somebody who's firm, who knows enough of the law, and there are enough people out there that you can get who may not be lawyers full-fledged because they flunked the bar. You know that in the JBC, some people are already being considered even if they flunked the bar 3 times. 4 times they're considered. Some of us are very strict about that. But the point is, there are any number or tens of thousands of lawyers in the past. They're lawyers, but they're not certified lawyers by the bar, because they flunked. But they know the law. So you have enough of a talent out there. The other point I want to make is this. Again, function, huh? I'd like to be very practical. Why should sa civil service and the Constitution, halimbawa sa police, 56 years old, Army, 56 years old. Look at how devastating it is. You have a new chief of staff that's going to, of the armed forces that will retire in a few months. Same thing with the PNP. To me, that's ridiculous. You should allow them to go, if they are qualified, to go to the next rank and give them a term of 3 years or 4 years, whatever the case may be. But you cannot let the law dictate the lack of continuity the lack of consistency and the lack of making proper policies on the long run. That's why I don't dance to that tune. I'm sure Senator Lacson has the same view. Ang nagiging view kasi, sige, promote mo ng promote para may paglalagyan. Tingnan nyo, 3 ng class of 86 na mag-chief of ang ikli ng term. Si Bato lang ang medyo mahaba because he jumped over everybody. But here, with the marshals, let us stick to the point. You want to protect a judge. You want to protect the integrity of the court for being solid. You want to make sure that warrants are issued. That requires a modicum of training, but above all, as in all law, even for a lawyer who is passionate about his case, he will prepare his case, or for that matter, a marshal who is dedicated, who is passionate, will do his job. And to me, that is the most important element of anybody we appoint in the country. They must have the desire to make a difference. There are judges and there are judges, but some judges are timid. Some judges don't want to be aggressive. And kaya humahaba ang decision. They keep looking for other people to help them with the decision. I don't want this to happen to the marshals. And you can bet your bottom peso that as Justice Committee, I would really start looking at amending some of these, without violating the Constitution, of course, provisions so that we could have the most experience, the most authoritative, and with firmness and fairness, I keep repeating that, so that we'll have an effective service. Go ahead.
Sir, under the proposed Section 8, letter G, the marshals may also be able to issue subpoenas for the appearance of any person for investigation, apply for search warrant, file complaints before the Ombudsman, city prosecutor, or Department of Justice. Under letter H, to take and require sworn statements, and letter I, to administer any oath. So, baka po kailangan ng abogado po.
Why? Don't you have a legal officer in every department? Even the Department of Justice relies on a legal team.
Yes, sir. Under the Office of the Court Administrator, we have a legal office.
Correct.
But that legal office also
Investigates judges.
and also correct, assess, studies the complaints against judges and court personnel. So medyo in this ito pong court martial kasi, let's take for instance what happened to Judge Banyes.
Please don't say court martial.
Yes, sir, sorry. Judiciary Marshal, sir. Let's say, sir, yung kay Judge Banyes, who was shot in San Fernando, La Union. No? So, what we do, we can only coordinate with the PNP, which is investigating the case. So we cannot, beyond that, we cannot do anything anymore. No?
Then suit the title, suit to the position that requires a certain talent. If you want to have marshals that are investigating, then you can have marshals that are lawyers, precisely trained for that. You don't have to make everybody a lawyer. Okay?
Sir, in this case, it's only the chief marshal actually who is we are proposing to be a lawyer. In fact, the deputy marshals need not be lawyers. And down the
Chairman,
line.
may I go to CIDG Director? Must a CIDG Director be a lawyer?
No, sir, it's not
Hindi,
required
di ba?
under the law.
But you are authorized to issue subpoena
Yes, sir,
based
as
on the recent...
legislation passed by
yeah.
the Senate. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. For PNP
and you
officers,
can
sir. Yes,
also
sir.
administer oath, di ba?
Yes, sir, we do, sir. Sir, if I may be allowed to, sir, for senior PNP officers, membership in the bar is not a requisite for promotion or even as designation as chief PNP. The law allows those who are holders of master's degree in criminal justice administration and national security or allied discipline to occupy the position. Maybe that may be considered in this particular case.
Because
sir.
if you're a lawyer, you get promoted faster, right?
It's an advantage
Like
over
in
the
your
other
case,
senior
especially if
officers.
you're from UP.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sasabihin ni Miriam Santiago yan.
Yes,
And, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, lawyers are not necessarily better than anybody else.
Well, everybody's entitled to his opinion.
I have a suggestion, because it is unfortunate that a chief marshal who is performing very well will retire or mandatorily retire at age 65. So I am suggesting a proviso, Lagyan natin, provided that the court may extend for a maximum of 1 year the service of the chief marshal. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Kung kasi kung malakas pa naman, no, and performing very well, nakakapanghinayang naman.
There is under the civil service, there can be an extension of 1 year. So that is well within the law, Your Honor.
Again, if I may comment on Senator Lacso's comment, I agree with that, pero 1 year is too short. If somebody is doing his job, you know, what would have happened to the FBI? Of course, he is not a perfect being, no? Maraming flaws. Si J. Edgar Hoover lasted for a long time for the FBI, di ba? Or for that matter, Director Lucban. To me, age, mahatir. He will be disqualified from being here. Duterte will be disqualified from being appointed here. If somebody has a capability and a physical build, we should allow the law to say, matanda na ito, hindi na kaya, then okay. But if he's doing his work, again, going over function, and I'd like to ask the civil service that, because we have to change our laws, hindi porque yung law na andyan, we will now create a way upon which we can be stringent in such requirements that make us lose our momentum. In the PNP, that is always an AFP, and together with Senator Lacson, I sit in the National Defense Committee, I don't want to see a general, chief of staff, para lang naging chief of staff ka, nasabi na nag-retire ako, general, chief of staff, but he didn't make the mark in terms of overhauling or making the necessary vision for PNP officer. What would happen to us, like in the case of General Marshal in the United States, where he was able to get the U.S. Congress to fund the military needs when it was totally isolationist. And he had time to do so, although he wasn't retiring then. So to my mind, I'm taking this opportunity to take a whack that it doesn't happen to the marshals, but I'd like to take a whack also of that principle. Sure, you can retire at 56, or you can retire at 65, whatever it be. But the law must allow somebody, like Senator Lacson and me, I'm a little older than Senator Lacson.
I'm only 50 years old.
All right, I know you had your birthday recently. And, you have, and also Senator Dillon. If you're still strong and you still have the vision and you still have the drive, I think there should be flexibility. And I'd like to ask the Commissioner of Civil Service, Ariel Ronquillo, to comment on those comments. You were just discussing here.
Before that, with the indulgence of
Go ahead.
the Assistant Commissioner, maybe we can even extend that privilege to the Deputy Chief, Deputy Marshals, di ba? Tatlo lang naman yun eh.
Pwede po.
Kasi sa PNP, once you reach the rank of Brigadier General, you're entitled to be extended for a maximum of 1 year, di ba? That's in the law. Yeah.
But to add to that also, and I study all other jurisdictions, like in the case of the U.S. Navy, and I'm very familiar with that because I was mayor for 12 years and I grew up in the city where there's a U.S. Navy. You don't get promoted, not only because you still have to take an exam, and if you have a certain number of years and you can't pass the exam, you're out. Ano tawag doon? Natural attrition.
Attrition, sir.
Attrition, di
Yes,
ba?
sir.
Hindi ka makapasa, retire ka na, di ba? Pero kung magaling ka, you'll make flag rank, you'll make 4-star admiral, di ba? So, go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Your Honors. As regards your idea that the continuity in the office must be based on performance, the Civil Service Commission has long been advocating performance-based security of tenure, and therefore it should not really be based on what's the age of the government official or employee. It should really be based on the record of his performance while he's in the service. However, there should always be a measure to ensure that it will not be abused, because we should not prevent careerism from happening in government service to the point that it will stall just because somebody remains in the position for a long time. There should be certain parameters to ensure that fresh blood will be injected also in the service. And that is only possible if some people will have to exit at a certain point, Mr. Chair.
Tama po yung sinasabi nyo, and I agree with it wholeheartedly. Tama yun as a general rule. But ang sinasabi ko naman po, no? And I was mayor again, as Secretary of Tourism, ang kita ko yan. I'm sure Senator Lacson had the same experience. You want to keep somebody. Pupunta ka civil service, a lot of paperwork has to be done, haharap ko pa doon, bibigyan ka ng 1-year extension. To my mind, you do well, and you're okay. You do wrong, and you're already qualified, you're on thin ice. You have to do well. If you don't do well, you're out. Is that possible? Or we can craft a law to that effect?
Yes, Your Honor, that is always possible. But as I have said, there should be parameters to ensure that
Well, that's why we're
there will
asking.
be an exit at a certain point. Because I think based on empirical data, if a person reaches, for example, the age of 80, then the productivity of that person will be
As a lawyer, I will question you. Chief Justice Marquez, when did
80.
the former captain in the Civil War, Oliver Wendell Holmes, retire?
But
Di ba? Ilan years? 92?
Beyond 90 years old.
Yeah. A lot of justices in the United States, they retire so long as kaya pa.
For life po kasi.
In fact, there was that story. No, iba nga. Pero the point is, it makes sense to look at the prestige that the Supreme Court of the United States has because all the years of experience are not wasted. I would like to see that in the PNP, the most experienced officers, the most experienced in the NBI are retained. To my mind, don't make forced retirement something that will hamper it. This is an issue that must be discussed for other departments, but I want to make sure that here in the that is not a hurdle that everybody has to pass. You're okay, do your job. Then you can have if they're going to be extended, you don't have to go to civil service. You have an oversight by Congress. They can say, we'd like to extend this guy for another 3 years. Bang, okay. But, you cannot have a simple situation like, I think, was it General Ver who stayed a long time? Or, for that matter, even President Ramos has, I think, overstayed, di ba? And hindi naman pwedeng ganon. Especially under a regime of martial law, everybody is intimidated. But here, we're presuming that the system is under a regime where laws prevail. So I just want to have that flexibility. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, Reyes.
Mr. Chair, going back to the requirement of being a lawyer as Chief Marshal, I think one of the justification is the function under letter D to conduct investigation concerning allegation of irregularities, including graft and corruption committed by justices, judges, court officials, and personnel. And then we have a proposed division in the legal division. I think this legal division will have the same function as ng mga NBI. So receive complaint, require submission of counter affidavit of the judges and the justices, and then they will determine if they will recommend for the filing it with the DOJ. And then the approval should always be with the Chief Marshal. So how can the Chief Marshal, who is not a lawyer, can review the function of the lawyers in the legal division? And one thing, it will be hard for us judges who will a complaint to be filed and approved by a Chief Marshal who is not a lawyer. Kami po, judges and justices. So maganda rin po siguro na lawyer din yung Chief Marshal para kami assured na a complaint against us was filed, forwarded to the DOJ or to the Ombudsman. Alam namin, pinag-aralan ng lawyer din.
No, but that's precisely why, Judge, there are lawyers, legal counsel, or a city attorney, and if every department has a lawyer. That's what they're supposed to do. Otherwise, you'll throw everything to look at what's happening to OSG, what's happening to the office of the, ano yan, yung tinanggal lang ni President Duterte recently, OCTC. Tumatagal, di ba? At hindi makagalaw. You can have a position here that is open to any to a legal office. Hindi pa tayo gagastos ng malaki, hindi pa kasi ang nangyayari ngayon kagad ang tinitingnan natin, he must have the salary of a Chief Justice, Justice of the Supreme Court of Appeals. Medyo parang sinusuot natin yung posisyon, ang hinahanap natin yung pinaka-the best. And I'm for flexibility. He can always be a lawyer. If whoever is going to appoint this man is the President or the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, then he will know. I'd rather appoint a lawyer. I will give it to his judgment. But we should not pass judgment here when we're not on the ground. I mean, we're just discussing, sir. My word is not that of the Pope. We're all infallible.
Your Honor, if
Yes,
I
sir.
may, if we read the main function of this bill, it provides that the marshal shall protect, defend, safeguard, and provide security, etc. And to me, that does not need the title of a lawyer to be the head of this office. That's the main function here. Provide security. Well, with my apologies to Justice Marquez.
My sentiments exactly, sir. And the reason why both Senator Lacson and I and other senators here show that fit, because we see judges being assassinated. And now, if you have exactly people who know their job as marshals or can enforce warrants of arrest, and they're sufficiently trained there, and there's a very, very strong personality who will make sure that everybody's trained properly, I think it will succeed. But we don't need, additional to make these things happen. Yes, sir. Justice Ronquillo? Or Commissioner Ronquillo, sorry.
Yes.
Are you a lawyer?
Yes, I am,
Okay.
Mr. Chair. I'm a lawyer, but our position is that the position of Chief Marshal does not require membership in the bar, considering the purpose of the law. And besides, as we have commented during the TWG meeting, it will prevent careerism, and which is contrary to some provisions of this law, which says that the officials here are career employees, that deputy marshals are not necessarily lawyers. If we will require the chief marshal to be a lawyer, then definitely that will prevent them from being promoted to that position, just because they are not lawyers. On top of that, and because of that, Mr. Chair, our proposal is instead of considering membership in the bar as a mandatory requirement, why not make it merely as a preference? Maybe preferably a lawyer, but he must not be a lawyer. He may not be a lawyer, but preferably a lawyer. In that case, even non-lawyers may be a candidate for that position, provided he has the necessary experience and educational background to assume the position.
Wisely
Mr. Chair.
stated, because as we heard Jigs Coronel, he was saying Jigs Coronel is now a general, probably because he was a lawyer, but that is not required. Di ba? In other words, the guys who are running the PNP, oh, ito lawyer ito. Additional advantage lang yan, di ba? It's an advantage. So in fact, it will encourage others to be a lawyer and learn the law so he can be promoted. Certainly, whoever appoints the NBI director, lawyer ba yan? Tatanungin yan. And if his lawyers agree. But sa akin, sa NBI, kailangan talaga yan. Because palagang involved in law enforcement and prosecution yung mga yan. So sa atin, sa marshals, I don't think you need a lawyer, and I agree with Juan. I mean, we have more leverage. I'm sure they will always appoint a lawyer, even if we don't say it. All right. Any other comments on the bill? Yes.
We submit to the wisdom of Your Honor.
No.
We can just state, as the Commissioner said, maybe preferably a lawyer.
See,
And
when
then
a
we leave
lawyer
it.
comes in, he'll say, we submit. This is a legislative committee, a hearing. You don't have to submit here. You only submit when we bang the gavel and say you're out of order. Okay.
Anyway, Mr. Chairman, there's a vetting process. If we include the phrase preferably a lawyer, then that can be one of the considerations, di ba? Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
Mi-
Commissioner Ariel.
Your Honor, may I raise another point?
Please.
In Section 7 of the proposed bill, the last phrase says that all officials and personnel appointed under this Republic Act shall be governed by civil service laws, except those whose positions are highly technical or primarily confidential. We will suggest the deletion of that phrase, except those whose positions are highly technical or primarily confidential, because even the appointment of those who are holding technical and primarily confidential positions are subject to civil service laws.
So you want this removed?
Yes, Mr. Chair, because all these appointments should be governed by civil service laws. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Under Section 7, nakalagay dyan, obviously, judiciary marshal shall be comprised of 4 divisions, each headed by an OCA, Chief of Office, and 1 OCA, Assistant Chief of Office. What does that mean? Did you guys put this here?
The Administrator.
Office
That
of
is
the Court.
proposed by- That's why I'm asking him.
Yeah.
as
This was,
proposed.
I think this was discussed during the TWG, Your Honor.
Uh-huh.
So that was the proposal, that each of the division under the Office of the Judiciary Marshal, no, will be headed by Chief of Office and Assistant Chief of Office. So right now, under the proposed law, there are 4 divisions: no? Operations Division, Investigation Division, Legal Division, and Information Technology Division.
You see, right there's a legal division that is supposed to guide all the marshals, train them, come out with memoranda that says, hey, this is the way you enforce this. You must have training. Every 6 months, you have to undergo refresher courses on how to enforce warrants, di ba? Yan ang kulang sa atin eh. And I hope to God that we have more commissioners like Commissioner Requillo who can liberally see what is lacking instead of just looking at rules and regulations, how to fine-tune it. I just have some comments here. Do you think that investigation division should also include intelligence division?
Yes, Your Honor, or yes, we can also have that.
I would bow to General Lacson's, I say General, to the experience of Senator Lacson. Dapat siguro may intelligence yan, di ba? May threat yung judge o may hinahawakan siyang kaso na delikado, you have a threat analysis, di ba? May na makikita mo na kailangan bigyan ng support yan. Threat assessment.
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, threat assessment is one of the functions, no? Section 8B, to conduct threat assessments.
So, dito sa functions na nilagay nyo, the judicial shall be comprised of, dapat ilagay natin dyan yung either with investigation division or intelligence. Dadagdag ka na isa or isasama mo sa investigation. Jigs, in your experience, kailangan ba yan? You're an intelligence officer?
Yes, sir. Previously, sir, in the constabulary, the intelligence and investigation officers are merged into one unit. Because of the nature of the Philippine National Police becoming a very large organization, we separated it. But for purposes of convenience, maybe you can integrate it into a one unit, sir. Intelligence and investigation division.
Okay, so without any violent objection, I'd like to suggest that ilagay doon sa intelligence division sa investigation, right? Okay. Okay, and I think, I guess,
Mr. Chair, under section section 3, the Chief Marshal, section 4, the Chief Marshal shall have the same rank, privileges, and compensation of a Court of Appeals Associate Justice.
Yeah.
Well, I do not know if I'm correct, but I think this is the same rank of the Court Administrator. Am I correct?
yeah, medyo mataas sa sweldo mo siya doon. Kagad.
Yeah, because if they have the same rank, then how can the Chief Marshal be under the control and supervision of somebody with an equal rank? Your Honor.
Under the law creating the Office of the Court Administrator has a rank, privilege, and compensation of a presiding justice of the Court of Appeals. So, one rank higher po.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Pero, again, I question the fact that we are bound by form again. He must have the same rank as a justice of the Supreme Court. While I always advocate higher salaries for our people, to my mind, it might, when you say same rank, it gets into his head. So I think that we should suit the rank to his job and pay him the right salary without comparing him with others, because it is a very important position, di ba? So, would you have any suggestions that, Commissioner Roquillo?
Well, actually, Mr. Chair, I was of the idea that they have the same rank, and if they have the same rank, one cannot supervise the other. But with that information,
Well, your position is, if they have the same rank, he cannot supervise another
No,
of the same rank.
I may have to disagree, no? The rank is different from position.
Yeah.
No, in the PNP, for example, a brigadier general may be higher in position than a fellow brigadier general. Let's not confuse rank and position.
Or for that matter, in the case of Patton, became under Bradley. You know, they were both 3 stars already. And Bradley was given by Eisenhower the position that outranked practically
Anyway,
Patton.
it has been resolved because presiding justice pala ng CA yung rank ng court administrator. So wala nang issue, Mr. Chairman.
Let me go back to the issue then of the court administrator. You are already saddled with so many things, investigating judges, or for that matter, looking at who should be uh, uh, the administration of judges and positions are being created. What do we really want the OCA to be saddled by additional duties like this? Who will appoint, for example, this? Should it be the Supreme Court Justice, Chief Justice?
And bank po. Supreme Court and bank.
Kaya, sa en bank. I sit in the JBC, and one of the things that I really rue is the lobbying.
Do you consistently vote for Justice
I vote for him because I think he's qualified.
More than qualified.
But my staff says you should vote for him because he's handsome. We were discussing it last night. And anyway, I think he's eminently qualified, but that's the only thing I vote for. But sometimes I hate to see judges calling and saying, "Oh, di ba? Fine. I mean, send us your curriculum vitae and we look at it, and I think you should trust us for that." Here, do we want the Chief Justice to be exposed to lobbying efforts or in the Supreme Court? This is just a rhetorical question, if you like.
Sir, since it's going to be en banc, then all 15 justices will have to decide or choose who they think should be the chief marshal and the deputy marshals. Majority po, 8.
And the only other thing that I want is because baka mamaya, lagay mo naman itong bata ko marshal dito, marshal mo. You want to professionalize this.
Sir, mahirap po yun. Mahirap po yun because kung
Bakit mahirap?
magpapalakasan sila doon, these marshals are the one who's going to ensure their safety and security.
No,
So-
besides, that's for the Chief Justice and the Justice of the Supreme Court. But for the judges, because kamag-anak ng isang justice, you cannot avoid that. Dala mo nga yan dyan, o tapo mo yan dito, and then you'll be compromising the safety of a judge. We must maintain a professional service. Like the Secret Service is totally professional, and I will remind you that Senator Lacson was once Chief of Police of Manila, if I'm not mistaken, di ba? Of the Philippines. No, before, when you were younger. Di ba? Sabi nila. But anyway, Metrocom, no? Or whatever. Dito nung araw, pag pumatay ka ng pulis, o pumatay ka ng NBI agent, Director Vic, nung araw may pinatay na agent, babalikan ng NBI yan, di ba? That's a written word. Is that correct? You don't because you are sullying, tinatakot mo, ini-intimidate mo yung officers of the law. Di ba? I mean, I understand that. Like Senator Ping understands some of these nuances. Di ba?
I don't know about that, Mr.
When I was mayor, I said, I would tell them, bawal mamatay ang pulis, ha? Bawal mapatay ang pulis. Bawal mapatay yung barangay captain. At pagka kayo ginalaw niyo yung barangay captain, the performance of duty, we will go after you. And it worked very, very well. So, again, going back to the converse of this situation, is, yun lang ingatan natin. I suppose, pag maglalagay na tayo ng marshals, dapat, siyempre, merong circulation plan yan, di ba? Hindi lang pwede nakapermanente yun doon sa courts.
Well, the deputy marshals will be assigned in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao.
That's the easiest thing to do. Di ba? But let's go and digress a bit and compare after having had this extensive discussion. Let's take a look at the marshals in the United States. Can you show the qualifications required? Hindi pa din bilisan doon. Yeah. Well, while they're preparing that, yeah. The code fix. Each marshal appointed under this section should have a minimum of 4 years of command in level law enforcement. See? Wala sinasabi lawyer dyan, ha? Including personnel, budget, and accounting property issues in a police department, sheriff office of federal law enforcement agencies. 2, experience in coordinating with other law enforcement agencies. Siyempre, kailangan merong personality yan, di ba? Particularly at the state and local level. It's more complicated there because they're dealing with federal and state governments. 3, college-level academic experience. See? Sa mga Amerikano, pragmatic sila eh. What works, di ba? They don't talk about attorney ako. Kaya, pero lalaman nangyayari, di ba? 4, experience in or with county, state, and federal court systems or experience with protection of court personnel. So they have a vision of the kind of marshal that must be appointed. Would you like us to have the same thing here?
Depends on the functions.
Maybe mag-TWG kayo kung ipapasok niya yung qualifications para malinaw tayo na ito ang gagawin nila, na ito ang mga qualifications na ilalagay. And then, let us look at the Secret Service, which used to be under the Department of Treasury, which originally was there to combat smuggling and counterfeiting. Di ba? Now it's under FEMA. FEMA na, di ba? Home Defense. Sorry, Home Defense. Homeland Security. Can you show us? One of the lawyers must go there. Secret Service. Conditions of employment. You will be required to possess uncorrected visual acuity of no less than 20/100. Certainly, he has to learn how to shoot. Di ba? So you see, ang kanilang qualification is very functional. Binocular. Possess corrected visual acuity of 20/20 or better in each eye. Binocular. Hearing loss as measured by an audiometer. Talagang dadaan ka pa sa hearing loss. Maybe the NBI should think about this and the PNP. Be at least age 21 and less than age 37. When you become general, you should really make, or director, you should really make fine-tuning of the requirements that we get. That lessens the avenue upon which personal influence, or consanguinity or affinity doesn't get in. Submit to a drug test, that's sure. Carry and use a firearm. Complete 12 weeks of intensive training at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. Sign a mobility agreement that you can be transferred to Alaska or to anywhere else, right? Have you thought about this, the Honorable Chief Marshal, or rather Oka?
Sir, yes, we were thinking that all these qualifications will be included in the qualification standards in the IRR.
No, I think you should put it there because if we put it in the IRR, lagyan na lang natin dito and other qualifications that may be imposed later on consistent with the law. Because pag pinalitan mo yan, lalagyan na naman ng kung ano-ano yan eh. The IRR becomes the third branch of Congress, which is not allowed. Di ba? So have we now seen the vision that we're talking about? It must be a practical. They must learn how to shoot. They must be involved in drugs. They must have worked with police. They know how to work with police and other agencies. They can say, eto nga, certified that you have registered with the Selective Service System. I'm an author of the bill na ROTC, no? Sabi ko, 6 months training, or rather 6 weeks training, intensive. And from time to time, everybody should have that. Wala nang duty ang Pinoy. Panay, pengin na lang eh. So, yan, meron pa silang selective service system. Okay? This is just opening up facets to us so we can understand better how the marshals are going to be utilized. Ito ang deputy. Of course, U.S. citizen. Must be between the age of 21 and 36. Bata pa. Must be appointed before the 37th birthday. So they're looking at long pole. Must have a bachelor's degree. 1 year of specialized experience, or a combination of education and experience equivalent to the GL-07 level. I think the Court of Appeal, the Civil Service can help us with that. Must have a valid driver's license and good standing. Pati driver's license. Must successfully complete a structured interview and other assessments. Must successfully complete a background investigation. Must meet medical qualifications. Must be in excellent physical condition. Must undergo a rigorous 21.5-week basic training program of the United States Marshal Service Training Academy in Glencoe, Georgia. So there you go. Kasama na dyan siguro yung firearms proficiency dyan, no? So this is just a suggestion. This is not imposition. It must be a guide. Para we don't allow the law to you canalize the law, so to speak, so that you don't just get anybody there.
Mr. Chairman,
Right.
just an observation. No? I think it's a question of semantics. Ano? Sa atin, tinawag nating Deputy Marshal, medyo senior ang dating sa atin. In the United States, pag tinawag yung Deputy Marshal, he's not necessarily a senior member of that whatever entity. Pwede talagang bata yan, 21 to, or appointed before the age of 37. Dahil, di ba, o Deputy Marshal. Pero dito, ang connotation, pag sinabing deputy, medyo higher in rank. So, it's a question of semantics. So, I don't think it is accurate to correlate the issue at hand that we are discussing now with the Deputy U.S. Marshal.
Actually, this is a deputy.
Yeah, a deputy.
Deputy, hindi yan yung Deputy Chief Marshal. Deputy ito, binababa ko sa baba eh. Di ba? Oh. And that's where I'm going now, laying the predicate for the next question I'd like to raise. You are a marshal in an RTC, all right? An assassination has just taken place. Are you allowed to have posse comitatus power? I need help. I need a car. I need this. Raise your hand. I'll deputize you for a certain period of time. That is the tradition in America, in the Old West. Di ba? We have to let our imaginations fly because in the reality, pagka binaril na yung tao, kailangan mabilis tayong action. Somebody calls the police right away, somebody calls the NBI, kung hinahabol, may hot pursuit.
Mr. Chairman,
baka
pardon
makatulong
my
yan.
ignorance. Ano yung Latin na sinabi nyo? Ibig sabihin
Posse comitatus. You're talking about another posse. It's, plainly, the message to a group is that they are empowered to go after criminals who have just committed an offense and that they must be arrested.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think if Senator Rector were here, would pronounce it differently. The power practically to conscript people in a local community for a short period of time. Justice Oswald, do you agree with this? I bow to your gray hair. This is by tradition in England or even in the Wild West, not before. It's not a militia. Especially in areas which are outlying. Di ba? Example, you're in Sulu. Babantayan mo yung judge. Once upon, let's be frank here. Many judges don't hold court in Sulu. Before, no? They held court in Zamboanga. What do you say to that, Justice Maidas?
Sir, ngayon nasa holo na sila.
Sa ulo na. Talaga. But, see, that was something, a travesty. But if they have a marshal or a set of marshals there, somebody would think twice before they harm a judge, right? Wow.
Mr. Chairman, with
Yes,
your
sir.
permission, this may not be directly related to the discussion, pero I just received this from a local government official in Davao del Norte, Panabo. There's a certain judge, Judge Pax Gonzaga Senos, and this may be one of the reasons why we are crafting this bill, this measure. Executive Judge, I don't know him, by the way. Executive Judge, Branch 34, RTC, DAX, Gonzaga Senos, XENOS, RTC Panabo City. It's been receiving consistent death threats, and I think there's already recommendation from Justice Madraso, your DCA, to transfer him. Hindi ko alam yung regulasyon nyo for in transferring judges, yung sala. But it may be on you, on us, because this has been brought to my attention, on our conscience, as a matter of fact, kung may mangyari rito. So please.
In instances like those, and we have received a few requests, and they cite death threats. We designate them to other areas. So in this case, taga Davao del Norte po yata yan.
Parang related sa mga drug cases
Yeah,
that
so
he
I
has
think-
resolved and and still handling.
I think we are designating him in somewhere in Visayas.
Thank you. Because he'll be retiring in 2 years. Eh baka madisgrasya pa.
Di, marami ho kaming ganyan. Well, meron ho kaming mga ganyang instances from, in fact, from Mindanao, nandito na sa Maynila.
Kaya ko lang naman nasabi, dahil naipadala sa akin, baka makonsensya pa ako pag may nangyari. So,
Thank you po.
it's now on you.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I'll make
thank
sure
you.
when I get back to the court that
Thank you very much.
it will be
See,
signed
We
already.
have a very
I'd
commendable
like to emphasize,
senator.
I don't know him. I haven't seen him. I don't know him even.
But that's a point well taken, Senator, and I personally humbly commend you for it, because the other side of that story is, should we blink? By forcing that judge to be transferred, justice blinked. Justice was intimidated. And that's why we're forming marshals. And I would like to add another provision here. If the marshals are not sufficient, they can call on the police to protect a judge. But you don't transfer a judge because he's being threatened. Otherwise, everybody will make all kinds of contraptions to no? Yes.
Sir, actually, one of the main reasons why we blink is because we do not have marshals.
Now you have the solution. And for that matter, I think even without the marshals, I think the Supreme Court can request the VIP security ba yan sa PNP? Oo. Nabigyan ng kwan. Because you cannot have, it's not just for justice, government blinking. Alright? Pagka lilipat siya, pwedeng takutin yung susunod. Walang katapusan yan. Yes, Justice Felix.
Well,
Yes, Felix.
Actually, Mr. Chair, this is the sentiments of all RTC judges. Well, the government claimed that the fight on drug is successful, and we agreed. Meaning, active players in the syndicate is now being caught and charged. A big quantity is now being confiscated. Sa sitwasyon pong ganun, delikado na yung judge. And actually, the last 3 killings of judges are all drug-related.
In that regard, I would like to request, Jigs, kindly make an immediate threat assessment.
Yes, sir.
And if needed, if necessary, in the meantime that they're acting on it, kindly provide
temporary security on the matter. Yes, sir.
Security. Thank you.
Well spoken.
Judge Pax Gonzago, Senos of RTC, Davao, Panabo City. Yes, sir. Branch 34, yes.
And may appeal to sa PNP because pagka may mga ganyan, dapat bigyan nyo na agad ng security. Follow na lang yung threat assessment. Baka, kunyari, nagte-threat assessment para ma-transfer lang dito. Di ba? Meron ganun yan eh. Anyway, the other thing here is asset forfeiture. Ang complaint sa amin din sa Senado is we have never been able to effectively get the assets, or let's say, of a drug lord. In America, they get their planes, they get their mansions, they get their bank accounts, and therefore we're putting this here, right? So you'll have a special division here to that effect.
Sir, as long as there is already a court order, then the marshals can assist in the implementation of that court order.
Assist is physical. Training for asset forfeiture is something very essential. They cannot just grab it or whatever. You have to have a division here or part of a division under asset forfeiture. Do you agree?
Yes.
I think the NBI has some experience in this. Oh, the late Director Gerald Handa, my favorite, is alive. Senator Lexton was looking for you. DBM.
Importante kasi in DBM because of the
Budget.
budgetary requirement.
Yeah.
And we'd like to find out from you more or less an estimate of the funds needed to at least start up ng Marshal, Judicial Marshal.
While he's preparing for it, Senator Lacson, with your permission, I'd like to get the comments of NBI. Please prepare for that, yung tanong ni Senator Lacson. Go ahead.
Good morning, sirs.
morning.
Unfortunately, Your Honor, we were not able to attend the TWG meeting.
Yeah.
In that case, Your Honor, we were not able to voice out our concerns regarding the proposed measures. In this regard, Your Honor, we wish to use this platform to state that while the NBI does not have any issues with the concerns of securing members of the judiciary, We wish to convey 2 points of consideration. The first point, Your Honors, is that it has the potential to transgress the authority of the NBI to investigate cases of attacks against justice and judges as provided for by Republic Act 10867 or the NBI Modernization Law. And the second, Your Honors, is a more basic concern which deals with the issue of impartiality of the courts, Your Honor, considering that we are afraid that in case the judicial marshals cause the investigation of attacks against justices,
Judges.
the judges, courts may be forced to adhere to these findings without, although I do not say that the justices, Your Honor, and judges are maybe biased in this case, but we are afraid that they may lean in favor of the findings without sufficient justification, Your Honor.
That is questioning the judiciary. And there are grounds for you to be able to go against a justice or a judge who may be partial. What do you say, Justice Marquez?
Sir, I think what Attorney Ignacio is saying is in case there is an attack against a judge, let's say a judge was killed, and then NBI will investigate, the judiciary marshals will investigate, yun ba yun? And then there is a conflict or a difference, no? In the findings.
Who has primary jurisdiction? It's always a question.
Well, ako sir, I would leave it to the judge who is where the case is pending, no? And let the judge determine which between the two findings, no, are more perhaps credible, more acceptable, more
You mean who threatened him?
Not even the judge, but the prosecutor, because these are law enforcement functions, and necessarily you will have to deal with the prosecutor for inquest proceedings or direct filing.
Tama po yun. So,
Yeah.
fiscal muna and then the
Yeah.
prosecutor.
That is if a crime has actually been committed already. O, di ba?
Na-attack na po yung judge.
Kung may
Nabaril na.
may threat lang. Yung ba tino-question mo rin kung may threat? O sige, why don't you expand on what you're asking?
Under Republic Act 10867, Your Honor, the NBI has primary jurisdiction against attacks against justice and judges. So in this case, Your Honor, if this law passes, if this bill passes, we may be divested of one power, Your Honor, and we are afraid that that power may be used, although the intention is noble. We are afraid that it might be used to harass or intimidate.
You're saying that the NBI is a check and balance against intimidation
No,
or
Your
against judicial tyranny. Di ba? Diba?
It may become, Your Honor, a super body in that respect. And
No,
we are
no, no,
afraid
no,
of
no.
that.
Because essentially, this is to protect judges. Now, when they, I don't see any reason why a judge can call on the NBI. We can put it in the law to help them out.
There's, Mr. Chairman, there's
Yes.
a repealing clause. It is so provided as proposed, ano? If any of the sections or provisions of this
conflict.
act is a judge invalid, all its other provisions not affected thereby shall remain valid and in force.
Survivability.
All laws, rules, and regulations that may be inconsistent with the provisions of this act are hereby repealed or amended accordingly. So that takes care of the concern of the NBI.
That is if we agree na magkakaroon ka. But I'm saying, Senator, that with respect to the NBI, because they have had this experience already, the court may ask the NBI to assist. Diba? And they should always be ready.
Yes, Your Honor.
I think it's only a function of coordination.
Yeah, coordination nga.
Meron tayong tinatawag minsan concurrent jurisdiction. It also happens with the PNP and the NBI.
Oh.
Yes, sir.
It also happens with other to other law enforcement
PIDEA and the
agencies.
PNP.
It strikes so close to home, Senator Lacson, because when my father was assassinated, you had the NBI, the PN, the police, local police, the CIS, and everybody was stepping on each other, and until we said NBI. Pinakiusap ko kay President Marcos na rin, naman mother ko, no? But here, that's why right away, primary jurisdiction should be with the marshals unless they feel that they don't have the capability to handle it because it's so big, then they can call on PNP and the NBI, and they are duty-bound to follow in accordance with the original vision of the previous law. Would that be okay? Would everybody be happy with that? So we will add that as an amendment here. Thank you, Val. Yes, Gerald,
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
good morning.
Yes,
Before,
Mr.
this is important kasi kung maipasa, isama na natin sa budget call. That's the reason why I'm asking you na even during this hearing, kindly give us an idea how much is needed as a startup fund for the creation of the judicial or judiciary marshal. Thank you.
Your Honors, actually, in our TWG, we are yet to analyze the proposed organizational structure of the Supreme Court. But based on I made some assumptions. So the head of the Chief Marshal with a salary grade of 30, which is equivalent to the director of the NBI, the annual salary will be, the annual personal services cost, salaries and other allowances will be around 3.1 million. With regard to the Deputy Marshal, we will have 3, and each Deputy Marshal with a salary grade of 29, they will have around 2.7 million in terms of personal services cost. Then, based on the proposal of the proposal in the bill, there will be 4 divisions, and each division will be headed by a court attorney, except the IT division, which is SG24. So, based on the key officials, so we will have, aside from the Deputy Chief Marshal, Deputy Chief Marshal, so there are already 4. Then the 4 divisions will have 2 key officials, so 8. So the 11 key officials, the PS cost, annual PS cost will already be 24.8 million. Then I made an assumption that each division will be composed of 10 positions, starting with the entry level of salary grade 11 and up. Then the total PS cost, annual PS cost of the 44 positions, including the key positions, will be around 40 million. Then that's only, sir, the personal services cost. And with the assumption that there will only be around 44 positions for the whole marshal for the initial implementation.
We're talking here 1,000 yung yung plantilla.
Sir, if there will be 1,000 positions, sir, so 50 million will not be enough for the initial.
So more or less, para lang may estimate tayo. Salary grade 11, entry.
Yes, sir.
Entry
Salary
level.
grade 11. So if there will be 1,000, I'll get back to you again, sir. But in
Sige.
terms of MOE,
yeah.
we are pegging it around 1.4 million, which is the MOE being allocated for a branch. So if there will be 1,000 positions, so we will divide it. We'll make some assumptions later, sir.
Ano bang per capita MOE?
Sir, 1.4 million per RTC, and it's per RTC, it's around RTC sala, sir. And
Hindi, per capita na lang natin. Sa PNP, ganun ginawa namin eh. Kinumpit namin at 3,400 something.
Yes, sir. Per head. Yes, sir. It's
per
now
head.
already 3,800.
So kung 1,000, i-compute natin yung MOE per capita.
Okay, sir.
So based on what the PNP has right now, sabihin natin mga 3,005, give or take, times 1,000. So,
3 billion.
yeah, over a billion.
Yes, sir.
How much is a judge life cost?
3.5 times 1,000 positions, sir, is 3.5 million, sir.
3.5 billion. Kung 3,500 per capita, per head.
Sir, it's only 3.5 million, sir.
Million?
Million.
Apo.
3,000, 3.5 million. Sorry. Okay. So, capital outlay,
We
siguro
are yet,
squat muna sila.
yes, sir.
Okay, build up muna.
That will be charged from the existing
So,
funds
that's not
of the
too
Supreme-
much, ano?
Yeah.
This is not too much.
Yes, sir.
Yung PS, paki-estimate lang yung based on 1,000 and then get back to us.
Let me point out, with the permission of Senator Lacson, if he's finished. Gerald, you have to put in transportation costs. Because pagka mag-escort ka ng judge, may backup car yan or whatever, dapat mayroong pool yan. Or you could have just borrow from Grab or something like that. So have a long-term contract, no? Hindi na excuse yun eh. No? So that they cannot grab the judge. The other thing is the training. Make a training academy yan, And then finally, there is also the point that you must have a reaction force, a reserve force, where you can assign in a threatened area like Holo, Basilan, or Panabo, some augmentation of personnel. Otherwise, it becomes a useless law. Kung makukuha pa rin nila, may marshal ka na, magiging parang redundancy na, parang ineffective, no? So, you have to really put it into this law na kompleto yan. Otherwise, what are we doing this? Kung mangyayari rin ulit, edi huwag na tayo maggawa ng batas. I-farm out na lang natin ang security. Di ba?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to make your life easier here because when you sponsor this on the floor, I'm sure Senator Drilon will ask you that question.
sure.
How much is needed?
He
How much
loves
budget?
prolonging the debate.
Sige, DBM, please.
Your honors, for 1,000
Thank you for
positions, assuming that there will be other entry level will be SAR grade 11, so around 1.9 billion, including the annual PS cost of the key positions, sir, for 1,000 positions. 1.9 billion, sir, only for personal services, sir. So plus the MOE of around 3.5, so more than 2 billion, sir.
Di ba, Ping, ang budget ng Supreme Court, ang court, 64 billion ba?
Yeah, it's around 1+%.
Oh,
Is it
maliit lang.
1.9% of the
Maliit lang eh.
total
34.9 billion.
national budget?
Mahigit
Mahigit 1% ngayon. Before it was, I remember, 0.94%.
Dapat laki yan.
Now it's, I think, 1.8 or 1.9% of the total budget of the government, which is, and the judiciary is a co-equal branch of government,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Not the poor cousin. I'm just trying to show na with the, let's say, 2 billion na, lagay mo na, sa back of the envelope computation, you are just adding 2 billion to 39 billion of the, and that's important that you send a strong message. And I think you should have a strong message that hindi na kayo makakapatay basta-basta ng judge. The full force of the law and the Supreme Court is no longer defenseless, di ba? So we'll have to add those para magawa natin ito ng maayos, no? Especially transportation, no? Mga ganyan. Sometimes we make laws. Like, I remember a certain lady by the name of Secretary De Lima, when she was commissioned on human rights, she was complaining to me, and I said, wala raw silang kotse, wala silang hindi sila makapag-imbestiga. So we promoted that. No? But I mean, I wonder why we create laws tapos hindi effective. Or for that matter, in the past, there were comments na manghihingi pa ng gasolina yung police. Jigs, nangyayari pa yun pag kami na, hindi na, no? Oh, yeah, kaya nga. Senator Lacson also too that you have helicopters, right? And we supported it, because it's important that we are able to effectively. So the function must be protected, not just the form. And we have a tendency to come up with form. Anything else? Medyo kompleto na, no? Yes, Ariel.
Mr. Chair, we just want to know if it is the intention of the bill not to give retirement benefits to the deputy.
Meron yan, di pwede wala.
Because under the proposed bill, they retire at the age of 65. But they are also, part of the qualification requirements is that they should be newly retired, either from AFP or PNP.
That has been removed.
Ay, that's been removed.
Yung newly retired, inalis na nila.
Okay.
I'm going to ask the advice of Senator Ping right now and the budget. I have a hard time. I became Justice Committee. And, dinaas natin yung judges, nanghingi ang ombudsman. Nanghingi ngayon yung ibang prosecutors. Kailangan dito, tama na kung anong ilagay natin dito, tama na. Because nagiging entitlement and civil minimums. Bakit siya meron, ako wala. So we should put some language there. Salary standardization. Any suggestions? Gerald, handa ka ba?
Actually, sir, Your Honors, under Section 4, it already stated that the Chief Marshal will have the same rank, privileges, and compensation of the Court of Appeals Associate Justice. So we are assuming that, including the applicable retirement benefits, so he or she may receive this.
Not
We have to clarify that, sir.
Kami, yung 12 years namin, we're not even entitled eh.
No. Hindi parehas eh.
Hindi parehas ang laban.
Oh. Hindi naman kailangan malaki-malaki, pero just to have a dignified life is important, di ba? Not have to... So, we may have to ask budget to look into that, and we'll ask Yoli siguro, no? We can take a look at it better.
I think it's important na isama na sa budget call eh.
Yeah,
Para ma-include na sa National Expenditure Program.
I mean, totally agree. Total agreement with that.
Yeah, so we'll not resort to amending the budget bill anymore.
Can we work together with budget na ipakita nyo na lahat yung budget kagad? Gawin nyo na kagad yung budget. Kasama nyo na yung transportation, kasama nyo na yung augmentation force, yung academy. Para we have an idea. When we get to the floor, malinaw na malinaw. Yes.
And then, Your Honor, so is it my understanding that we will include this for the budget of 2021? 2021.
Yeah.
Kasi sa SC po, nagbabudget call na kami for 2021. So we will include this.
Kaya nga pinapagawa na natin yan.
Sige.
Kasi if we pass this or if we enact this bill into law, magte-take effect to mga January 2021 na rin eh.
Okay.
Your Honors, with that agreement, then the Supreme Court should include the budgetary requirements in their 2021 budget proposal, which is the deadline will be on May 11, 2020, sir.
But that's why kayo pala ang gagawa. Hindi siya.
That's right. And then we submit to them.
Pinapahirapan ko lang si Wonder. Kaya ko tinanong, handa ka ba? And I know he can handle that. And you should sit down with him right away para makita natin. And then present it. So before we go to the floor, we have an idea. We can give the senators an idea of where we're headed, no? Right? May mga hazard pay ba yan?
Of course.
Yan, di ba? Pag dinala mo doon sa Sulu, may threat doon. Yung bibili nilang firearms, dapat may coordination na yan. Hindi magtatagal yan. Hindi sasabihin, tagal namin kumuha ng permit sa PNP. Di ba? So, kailangan makinis na yan. Dix, do you see any problem with that? Brigadier General Usana, United States of America, in...
When are you retiring? Oh, so you may be the first judiciary marshal. You're a lawyer.
Baka gusto nyo rin mag-NBI. No, but also, yung inbreeding, yung experience dapat makuha. No? Unless talagang walang kwan. Pag pinakialaman mo yung taas, hindi naman nawawalan ng gana yung nasa ilalim eh. Di ba? So, we have to be careful about that. So, basically, let's prepare for that and let's make sure that we are able to do it. Can you do it in 1 week?
We'll do it when we get back.
Anyway, wala naman lobbying sa Supreme Court ka, di ba? Let me ask one more question here. How many judges have threats right now? Justice Maidas.
Threats reported to our office siguro nasa mga 15 to 20.
15 to 20. And
Actually po, we don't have idea. Because there are actually judges who are not aware that they are under threat.
yeah, that's why we said that intelligence kailangan makikita. And they should, I think, siguro, isang gagawin nyo dyan eh. Ano yung mga hinahandle yung cases na sensitive? Yung mga drug cases. And that's where the PNP and the NBI and the marshals can work together, di ba?
Your Honor, when a judge reports that he or she receives a threat, more or less alam na niya kung anong kaso yun eh. Kung saan galing yung threat. So, sinasabi na rin niya yun.
Kasi ayoko pagka hindi ma-explain, may kwan, this is a love triangle. O kaya, sasabihin, may hinahawakan mga sensitive cases. We must know the sensitive cases right away. Because it's a waste of time. And ako, ang natutuhan ko, I'm sure Senator Lacson knows this, pag nangyari, dapat mabilis ang aksyon, kundi the trail will become cold, di ba? Jigs, di ba? Tama yan?
Sir, what happens is if we receive a threat from a judge, we right away call PNP.
No,
And
I don't want you to see the threat. I want your intelligence division to be surveying all the work. They must earn their pay. They must be surveying kung ano ang possible threats sa judge natin, no? And then you call him, ano ba, ito, one. So you more or less set intelligence officers there to check on the people at court. I remember isang judge pinatay sa tiga Makati, pinatay sa Batangas. Tiga yata na yun.
Rosales.
Tinawag ko si General Aglipay.
Yeah.
And nalaman namin na nasa loob yung mastermind, no? At nakakulong yun, no? The other thing that I want to say here also is, if you have 15 to 20, is that the average?
More or less, Your Honor.
More or less.
Pero ito lang po yung reported sa amin. As what Judge Felix said, many of the judges do not even know that there are threats against them.
Kasi, una, that will also be good for the court, di ba? Kung alam mo, may hinahawa ka siyang sensitive, even before he starts trial, you have a checklist. These are the judges with sensitive cases. Can be assassinated, can be threatened with all kinds of things, no? From bribery to assassination. So pagka ganon, the judge knows na there's a guardian angel from the marshals and from the Supreme Court watching over him. And that's exactly what the message that we want to put here. I just didn't do this, and Senator Russell did do this, file this bill just to please the Supreme Court. We are really serious about the welfare of the judge. I have a lady here whom I presented last time. She's the mother of one of my staff, Mrs. Anastasia Patugalan. Ilang beses pinagtangkaan niya ang buhay niya hanggang napatay siya sa jeep pa. So you can see na talagang hindi natin titigilan yan. And I suggest, Jigs, maybe tingnan nyo nga yun sa cold case, kawawa naman yung mga... ako, I have never stopped looking for the mastermind of my parents, no? of my father. And that's how you feel. You have to have closure. Is this Mrs. Patugulan here? On your left. Ay, ano pala? Again, just to remind everybody, gano'ng katagal na namatay si Judge Patugulan? 13 years na. The long arm of the law should stretch for not only for her but for other judges. I've been to many of these wakes na talaga, whether mayor, tao, that's why we're very sensitive about assassinations. So, dapat matigil yan. Even for the NBI. Yung mga NBI nagtatrabaho, babarili dyan. Di ba? Ilan ang napatay sa inyo? Meron na ba kayo nung, di ba, yung mga pangalan ng mga pinapatay na, ano?
About 5
Agents.
agents were killed while in
The line of duty.
service.
Yan. And I think, pagka ganyan, any judge or for that matter, any NBI or any policeman in the line of duty should receive congressional appreciation for his services. No? Hindi naman kinalimutan lang siya. For that matter, any citizen who helps. And that's why it's important na mayroong communication. Okay?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I noticed that probably one lacking section here is the identification of ranks and positions of all personnel that will man this organization. So I think one section should be dedicated to that, just like the PNP law, from table of organization, down to the lowest mammal.
They have to be a mammal. I hope that you would put up not an overly superfluous thing, no, but I find my work in the Red Cross made easy. There's a disaster here. Nakakayaan namin several, but you should have an operation center. So right away you know where your agents are, you know who's there, you know who are under threat. Mas madaling tingnan kagad, no? You know the nuances of the area. Importante yan. This is the era of information technology. and it will be, our job shall be made easier and our lives shall be safer that way. If there are no more questions, yes, Commissioner Ronquillo, we really appreciate your comments here.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, just want to be clarified as to who is the appointing authority of the other officials and employees of the Office of the Chief Marshal.
The Chief Marshal is supposed to be appointed by the Supreme,
Supreme Court.
Right. But,
The others.
Meron po kaming in the Supreme Court, no, in the judiciary, it's by salary grade. So salary grade 28 and below, yung 3 senior justices. So 29 and above, Supreme Court and Bank.
so, ikaw baling appoint sa below.
Hindi po. 28 and below, the 3 senior justices of the Supreme
Meron
Court.
pa rin, branch, no?
3 senior justices. So Chief
sige.
Justice, and yung Senior Associate Justice, and the number 3 Justice.
You know, you look at my face. You know, nalulukot because every time you give the Supreme Court, you know, they're overloaded out there. We know that, di ba? So ito, simple lang ito. I suggest the court administration should appoint the rest. Yun ang senior dapat.
Actually, if I may add, Your Honor,
Pa-approve nyo na lang kada
appointment of, let's say, a utility worker in Holo is signed by the Chief Justice.
That's ridiculous.
That's the problem, yes. So.
Not only does it take away time for review of you know, so I'm not exactly the court administrator should be in charge of administration. The Supreme Court must be allowed to do what it does best. Di ba? So, can we, would you like to make a recommendation?
Yes, Your Honors, we request that the identification of the proper appointing authority be made in the law
What
because
would your suggestion?
it has to be delegated to lower officials, not the Supreme Court and Bank, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
We have our own appointment processes. We can include it so that for uniformity lang po sa
I
ibang.
just came in now with a question. If the Senate conducts an investigation on the Marshal services, would we be intruding into a co-equal branch? Sige. Sabi, no, you cannot investigate us. We're independent.
Your Honor, even when we receive an invitation from the House or the Senate, we appear. So
Yeah, but with the permission of the Supreme Court, right? Unless you're just a spoiled brat there.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat.
Give me the
We can always
999.
we can always invoke the power of the purse of Congress.
Precisely.
We'll give them 1 peso budget if they don't. Just joking.
I know he will. No, but this is a very practical point that is being made. My thinking is that somebody has got to be able to appoint the marshals. If you like check and balance, the 3 Supreme Court justices should say, these are the people I appointed, kayo ang final one.
yung 3 Supreme Court justices po, yung 3 senior justices, no? Up to a certain salary grade lang yun. And then below that, Chief Justice.
Oh, we can craft the law in that manner.
That is the I would suggest, Your Honor, with all due respect, siguro we have to para lang may consistency, no? We will pattern it with appointing processes in the court because eventually the marshals will be Supreme Court personnel.
Quite frankly, you know that the head of the marshals in the United States is appointed by the President of the United States. So I don't know why the Supreme Court should waste its time on this. Let the President appoint the Chief Marshal. Di ba? Well? Hindi kasi,
Baka si Boy Tokhang yung i-appoint doon.
ayun ang problema. Yun ang problema. That's why people have to vote for the right guy. No, but, I mean, doon lang sa Chief Marshal. But, you know, let's make it a point na talagang, tulad doon nakalagay doon, ito ang kailangan gawin. And he has to go through the commission appointments. Gusto mo ganon? Ako gusto ko yung Chief PNP dadaan sa commission appointments.
Yeah, except that it's not in the Constitution.
Okay. Pero magpapalit raw sila.
When I was chief PNP, they attempted to to make me undergo confirmation, only to
Yeah.
find out
That they cannot,
there's jurisprudence, yung Bureau of Customs, di ba?
Ah,
Yes, Mison.
ah.
And we invoked that. And the president did not want to submit my name for
Sino bisa niya?
confirmation. Salvador, Bureau of Customs.
General.
Remember the late
Yeah,
Nene
yeah,
Pimentel wanted me to undergo confirmation.
Well, Nene, God rest his soul, wanted to do a lot of other things. Anyway, what is your considered opinion?
Sir,
I
I would
putting you on the spot. Baka magalit sa inyo Supreme Court. What is your considered opinion?
But I think, Your Honors, even the Chief Marshal should be given an appointing power. He should be given a hand in determining
tama yan.
who are the people he's going to work with.
Tama. Tama.
Yeah.
Ah. Sa U.S., there's hereby established a United States Marshal Service as a bureau within the Department of Justice. Ako, lapas ako. Under the authority and direction of the Attorney General, there shall be, at the head of the United States Marshal Service, thereafter in this chapter referred to as a service, a director shall be appointed by the President and with the advice and consent of the Senate. What about that? Why don't we take you, divest you of this very difficult task and put it under the Secretary of Justice? I am in favor ng Supreme Court. Nobody will protect their own kundi Supreme Court. But yung masalimuot dyan, yung mag-a-appoint.
Sir,
And I agree with Commissioner Ariel na dapat ang a-appoint lang ng Supreme Court o ng Presidente, as the case may be when we decide, is yung Chief Marshal. The rest, he can appoint the other, if you like, with the approval of the three. Pero after that, lahat Chief Marshal lang. With the approval of the Civil Service, of course.
we will review, Your Honor, the existing procedure, and then we'll
No more
see.
time. You want me to call another hearing?
You know, we will include it here, and then the final version we will submit.
I'm willing to call another hearing if you're able to finish it next week, para we can put this on the floor.
Kayo po.
With the position paper.
Yes, sir. Pwede po.
Ah?
We
Ariel, can you help us with that? Sama ninyo na yan.
The matter of confirmation by the CA is out of the question. Because
di ba,
necessarily,
constitutional yan.
constitutional. Sa PNP law, nakalagay doon, to be confirmed But it was struck down, di ba? Because it's unconstitutional. Hindi kasama sa provision Okay.
Okay. So, we'll have another hearing.
It's up to you. You're the
Yeah, of course. I mean,
I'm always by your side.
that's why I'm asking you.
Sir, kung gusto niyo po, we will submit the
Position paper.
position paper, and then you decide if you want to call another.
All right, sige, we'll do that. Para mapilitan mag-aaral ito mga nasa likod ko at nag-aaral niya mga yan. Yes, Val.
Sir, one final point for the NBI, sir. Sir, considering that with respect to the provision on the NBI pertaining to the assistant director rank, we recommend that instead of assistant director, assistant regional director, considering that we wish to level the playing field, considering that with respect to the PNP, the rank is only colonel, so mas marami po yung pool. Sa amin, sir, kasi ang assistant director, ilan lang po.
So you want us to file another bill sa NBI?
No,
ba?
sir. No, sir.
Are you lobbying?
Mas malapad lang, sir. Para po mas marami po yung
Mas
choices.
malapad yung alin?
Sir, mas malapad po yung pwede nilang pagkuhanan, sir, if ever na mag-wish na
Director,
maglateral, sir.
It's directly proportional to the strength. Kasi NBI, ilan lang kayo Ang
Yes, sir.
PNP
Ilan
kasi
lang po kami.
200,000
Yes, sir.
Ilan ba kayo?
Sir, ang assistant director po namin ay 6, sir.
6.
Yes, sir.
Marami. Pero ang rank and file, lahat. NBI agents sila.
Sir, more or less 500, sir.
Konti lang pala, no? Sige, make a position paper and I think
Pwede naman sa PNP or sa AFP gawing at least 1-star general Huwag ibaba sa rank ng colonel yung qualification. Pwede naman siguro.
Vic, you have something to say? Director De Guzman?
Your Honor, I am just asking Bal if we already submitted the NBI's position paper. Accordingly, he already submitted it today.
Saan? Just sa'yo. Naku. Can you make sure that when you submit the position paper to my COMSEC, aabot sa akin?
That's not there. Parang wala na sa area ng competence nila yan. Mr. Chairman, para lang ma-level nga yung playing field ano, sa pag lateral entry. Tama yun, i-elevate na lang natin sa rank na 1 star. Instead of colonel, pwede na sa inyo yun, ano, at least 1 star general sa equivalent. Thank you. Paalam kayo kay Justice Marquez. Hanggang ARD raw kung pwede. Assistant Regional
Siguro
Director.
tingnan na lang din namin yung salary grade and then we'll base it there. Apa.
Ng civil service na hindi papayag yung mga PNP na sumali dyan dahil mawawala yung kanilang, they have to start all over again. How do we solve that?
I think, Mr. Chair, it was mentioned earlier that they are removing the requirement that the appointee should come from the ranks of retired military officials and AFP officials. It will only happen if they appoint a retired official because they will never reach 15 years in the service. They will have to go out at the age of 65. If they retired 56 to 65, then they will only render 10 years. That will not qualify them for retirement.
Can you give me a provision, a suggestion lang, that you go beyond 65?
For special retirement
No,
law,
no, nothing special. To me, the only thing is function. Kung magaling siya, especially the first year, hinahasa mo yan para magkaroon ng traditions, magkaroon ng magandang position. You want to keep somebody who envisioned it and put it to fruition. If you cut him out of 6 years or 3 years, hindi tutuloy yan. Walang initiative. You know, in any country, if you look at Asia or any country, it takes about 20 years of continuous good leadership. So you take off. Dito sa atin, we will never because look at our country, we keep changing presidents all the time, no? Bali, kung 8 years, that's why, because the political party system is not working, walang continuity. Kanya-kanyang korsonada ng presidente malalagay. Pero kung dito, maglagay ka dyan ng, help us, this is a suggestion,
yes, yes.
para to save time. Now, we will allow people, so long as they're qualified and subject to approval by the authorities concerned, tuloy siya.